That's why we don't keep the best ones. You know, if you're, the best teachers are gonna go where there's more money.
15 seconds.
So it's a, you know, there's a lot of things that could improve in education, and I think that those would be a nice start.
Thank you. Next question goes first to Mr. Rogers. Earlier this month, it was suggested by West Virginia University President E. Gordon Gee that the state has too many county governments and too many county boards of education. Should some of them be consolidated?
Well, if G. Gordon Gee's such an expert, I'd like to know why he can't keep a job. He's been to Brown and West Virginia. I was there for the first time around. He's been around. I don't know, probably. We are, you know, but the thing is, you're going to have 55 county clerks arguing against why there should be 55 county clerks. That's the first thing. It's like when I was in theology school, there was a question about the African American Zionist church, whether they should be integrated with the Methodist church. And somebody said, well, what are you going to do with the bishops? Well, what are you going to do with these 18? We got more democracy than we need, probably. But that's far from the number one item, I think.
Dr. Maroney, earlier this month, WVU President E. Gordon Gee suggested that the state has too many county governments and too many county boards of education. Should some of them be consolidated?
As a general rule, I am not in favor of big government. I am in favor of limited government. So as a general rule, I would be for government consolidation. When it comes to what specific government agencies and whether or not we need 55, you know, county school boards, I'm not so sure. We've always had 55 county school boards. We're losing population. Well, we have 55 counties, but we don't have 55 senators. They consolidate those districts. So, you know, maybe consolidation would be a consideration.
15 seconds, sir.
Certainly for government agencies, you know, the school board thing, I've never really given much thought to that. That's something I'd like to ponder over for a while.
Thank you. Mrs. Zukoff, earlier this month, WVU President E. Gordon Gee suggested the state has too many county governments and too many county boards of education. Should some of them be consolidated?
I think when you're in difficult budget times, everything should be on the table to be discussed and looked at. Do I have the answer to whether that should happen or not? I don't. But I'd be willing to take a look and see what that might mean. I know that, for instance, in Gilmer and Braxton County, they have a shared school now because there was an outlying school on the end of a district and it was close to the Braxton or Harrison County line, and they actually have a school that serves both counties. I think there are places like that where that can happen. I also think that, especially with the education piece, that we are way too top-heavy at the West Virginia Board of Education, and I think that we need to cut costs there. But again, it's something I would have to look at. We'd have to look at a cost survey analysis, and I also think services. It's really difficult for folks here in West Virginia to get from one place to another. Calhoun County, Doddridge County, but I mean, it takes 3 hours to get from here to Calhoun County. So I think you really need to look at all the logistics before you would make those types of considerations.
Thank you. Next question goes first to Dr. Maroney. Does West Virginia have more state colleges and universities than we can afford? If so, which ones should be closed?
Whip neck.
What'd you say?
We certainly have quite a few state colleges and universities, and you know that's a tough question. It is all, again, part of being in a budget crisis. When you're in a budget crisis, you have to look at things like education. You know, with the college level, with all these, you know, overlap of services, and sometimes you have to make tough decisions. I won't handpick one of them tonight, but I would again say that we're gonna be $700 million with a budget deficit over the next 2 fiscal years combined, then that might be something that would come up, and I'd love to be a part of that discussion as well.
Thank you. Mrs. Zukoff, does West Virginia have more state colleges and universities than we can afford? If so, which ones should be closed?
I don't believe we do have more than we need and that they should be closed. I think many of our universities and colleges are regional, and they also drive the economy. If you look at West Virginia University, they've sustained significant cuts. They're one of the major employers in Monongalia County, part of the 2nd District. They also bring in billions of dollars of revenues from the students who come in to live and that pay into our economy, and the jobs that they provide that pay into our economy by the taxes that are brought back into the system. Glenville State College is the same. It's the economic driver in Gilmer County. I think you have to look at those items, and you also have to think about, I've met a waitress that lives in Hundred who drives every day to Fairmont State so that she can afford to go to school. She has the Promise Scholarship. She's working her way through school. She has no one to help her, and she's able to drive back and forth. If that school goes away, then does that take college out of her realm of possibility? It's the same thing with Glenville State College. Folks from Doddridge, Calhoun, Harrison, the other school that they go to, that they can drive there, that allows them the educational opportunity that they might not have otherwise. That's why I don't believe we should cut any additional schools out of our system.
Awesome. Thank you. Very good. Mr. Rogers, does West Virginia have more state colleges and universities than we can afford? If so, which ones, excepting any that we happen to be seated in, should be closed?
The thing that's always interested me about this, and I'll get to answer the question in a minute, but why do they all have to become universities? I mean, Lisa mentioned Glenville. We got Fairmont University. When Robin Capehart was there shortly before, it became West Liberty University. I've changed my mind on this issue, and it was Alfred Arch Moore who did it when he built these community colleges. Because I thought everybody ought to go to Harvard, right? If you got any brains, that's where you go. The rest of you go in the coal mines. That's the way America should be. That's the way it was in the 50s. You know that. But what I saw with this institution here, that a lot of people got a start in life that they couldn't have got otherwise. And one of them is my wife. She went through here and got a nursing degree right here. It's the best deal you can get.
15 seconds.
So, I don't know. We'll take it on a piece by piece, or at least a suggestion, we can appoint somebody to, some commission to look at this, okay?
Did she say
That
That
you say it.
All right. Moving right along. This one goes first to Mrs. Zukoff. What ideas do you have to provide more money for highway and bridge maintenance and construction in West Virginia?
Well, I think a lot of our state funding for roads is driven by the federal budget. Probably 3/4 to a third of our 3/4 to a fourth gets paid, so we need to make sure that we get all we can from the federal government to match here at the state level. I also think, especially in the 2nd District, because we are so heavily inundated with the heavy trucks from the oil and gas industry, that there should be additional monies built in to help those companies pay for the roads that are tore up because of that heavy truck traffic. I live on one of those roads, and it has to be fixed regularly. Doddridge County, which has the most, has probably the highest population of trucks on the road for the oil and gas industry, have the worst roads in our district. So I think that they should be helping to pay for those roads. I also think that there could be some restructuring of the gasoline tax, so that there could be some money that comes back from that to actually help pay for the road repairs.
Mr. Rogers, what ideas do you have to provide more money for highway and bridge maintenance and construction in West Virginia?
Tax the bastards. Those oil and gas people, don't let them get out of here without paying. That's what they're doing. Lisa's gonna put a little what was, I wrote it down, help those companies pay. You gotta fight them, that's what you gotta do. You gotta fight them and fight them and fight them. Cause we are a rich state, you know, in natural resources. Coal, the world, when coal left southern West Virginia, what was left? Sawdust and empty popcorn boxes, right? That's all there was. Well, it's gonna be that way here. They're gonna be running these things like 2 well tenders. I don't know. It's terrible. It's terrible what they have done to our state. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Maroney, what ideas do you have to provide more money for highway and bridge maintenance and construction in West Virginia?
Well, the problem is with, you know, restructuring taxes, and the problem with, you know, keeping all the colleges open, and which is great, because these little colleges like Northern are awesome for communities, is we don't have any money. We're almost $750 million in deficit over the next 2 years. So you have to, if you shift it from somewhere else, then someone else loses that we're not talking about. So you have to, again, we have to decrease our budget deficit by increasing our revenues and decreasing our spending. Okay, and then some of that money can be partitioned towards the roads. If the local governments want to take care of their own roads because it's good for them, if it's a county or a city and it's approved by the voters, then let them step up to the plate and take care of it. The state should let them do it on their own if it benefits that particular area. And then the companies are coming in. I mean, the companies are coming in, and they've been good with paying money to the communities. They've been good with fixing some roads, but we got to just stay at them and make sure that we continue to get some revenues from the source that's tearing the roads up.
Thank you. Next question goes first to Mr. Rogers. Some mining companies have suggested reducing the state severance tax on coal would help them keep mines open and miners working. Should that be done?
No.
Thank you. Dr. Maroney, some mining companies have suggested reducing the state severance tax on coal would help them keep mines open and miners working. Should that be done?
Possibly. I think that you don't want to be taken by the industry and cut them a break, and then all of a sudden they still have one mine open, the same amount of workers. But you know, the coal's carried the state for a long time, and I was actually in a coal mine a few weeks ago. It was one of the best days of this whole campaign, and I loved it. A lot of respect for those guys, and I think the attack on the industry is insane and unfounded. And I think coal should be around for a while. Everyone thinks it'll be gone in a year. No, it'll be around. It should be around for a long time. And if we decrease the severance tax on coal, as long as that's in conjunction, if we're decreasing it because they want to open more mines and hire more miners, then absolutely. But you gotta tie that together. They say, okay, if we're going to decrease it, you're going to open mines and hire miners. Then we're going to get taxes from the payroll taxes and the clothes they buy and the food they buy. If they close the mines that they said they were going to open, then the tax goes right back up.
Thank you. Mrs. Zukoff, some mining companies have suggested reducing the state severance tax on coal would help them keep mines open and miners working. Should that be done?
I don't believe so. I think that we need every bit of severance tax that we have coming in. I think that all too often in West Virginia, we see those kind of outcries from coal companies, and when we do reduce the severance tax, it doesn't matter. They go bankrupt and then reform and start their same business under another name, and the only folks that lose are the miners. And so I think that while it's been a very lucrative and continues, and I hope for a long time, to be a lucrative part of our economy, I don't think we should reduce the severance taxes given the situation we have with our financial crisis in the state.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for one more question. It goes first to Dr. Maroney. It's actually not a question. Say something nice about your opponents, and to make it easier, we'll have a 30-second time limit.
30-second time limit, okay. I don't know either one of them. I really don't. I spoke to Lisa for the first time tonight. We exchanged greetings out in the lobby. And H. John, I met a few weeks ago in a football game. But I respect both of them very much so for having the courage to run for public office, because it's not easy. I'm living it right now, and it's changed. It's changed the way I'll live the rest of my life. It's a real eye-opening experience, and both of them to put in the efforts, and they've both been putting in the efforts, carrying around the sign everywhere, going all over the place. I think it's awesome that they're that passionate about running for office, and I commend them.
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Zukoff, say something nice about your opponents. If you want to go over 30 seconds, that's all right.
Well, I agree with Dr. Maroney. I don't know either of these folks. I understand from mutual friends that we have that Dr. Maroney is very involved in his community and youth sports and coaches, and my children are very involved in athletics, and I think that's wonderful. We also need good doctors in West Virginia, so I thank him for staying here in his state to serve all of us. Dr. Rogers, Attorney Rogers, right?
So he's got his doctorate.
I know you are. And I would say he's made this race interesting, and I thank him for that.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rogers, say something nice about your opponents. Remember, I said nice.
I know. You remember what Dwight Eisenhower said about Richard Nixon? He said, "Give me a week and I might come up with something." But no, they're both nice people. You know, it's amazing how much blood was shed over history to get us in this room doing this. You know, they're fine. I just don't think you ought to vote for them, that's all.
Given what I've heard from some people who have been in the legislature, that might be something nice. Not an easy job. All right, closing remarks, 1 minute each, beginning with Mr. Rogers.
Thank you very much for belatedly inviting me to this. It would have been very dull deep without me. But see, I collect these things, right? Now here's one of many that Mrs. Zukoff's friends have brought by, and it always says not authorized by any candidate or any candidates committee. Well, who did that, Lisa? and Doctor, by the way, yours is, I didn't get as many from you, but it says not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Now, who did that? Now, if you want things, one time I'm certainly been a critic, as Mike knows, over the years of Ogden Publications, but they got it right. Very good last Sunday. Not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before that. They said, here, voters declare we can't be bought. That's what they say. And then say, wouldn't it be nice to wake up on November the 9th and be able to tell someone in another state we can't be bought? Now, of course, I wrote that, but but you got it right, Mike. And if you want a copy, I have one in here.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Dr. Maroney, your closing statement.
It's been about a year now, almost a year, 10 and a half months since this journey's begun. And as I said earlier, it was very eye-opening. For instance, didn't really have that many enemies. You file for office, you wake up one day, just because your political party affiliation, you do. I'm a Republican. I've been attacked. By special interests, and one of them's here. This one, the one John had. But that's the disgusting part of it, and it's very disturbing. It's really turned to my stomach through this campaign. The part about it that's disturbing is the deception. They're trying to deceive West Virginia voters because they form a PAC with a nice name, because they know if they called themselves by the name that they really are, that the phones would be hung up and the doors would be slammed. Now, as I said, these times are crucial for West Virginia, and that's why I'm running. I'm a leader. I have values that parallel West Virginians. I have common sense, and I've got a work ethic. I'm not a pawn for any special interests. I have a knack for getting things done. I think West Virginia needs a new direction, and that's why my hat's in the ring.
Thank you. Mrs. Zukoff, your closing statement, please.
I agree with my opponents on the dark money, if you will. It's unfortunately, it's where we find ourselves. One just came out about me today by the National Republican leadership, and it's awful, and it feels awful. And I didn't know I was single-handedly responsible for the financial crisis of 2008, but I apologize for that. But I too am a hard worker. I work part-time at a business, and I'll give this job my full effort, and I'll be your full-time senator. Your vote's a matter of trust, and it's a hard choice to make. You have to consider and weigh your options. And I've heard people say if we only had a lie detector, right, then I might know who to vote for. Well, I think you do. If it sounds good, but it doesn't feel good, it's probably not right. If it sounds good and it feels good, then you know how to make your choice. I'd like to, again, I hope I reflect the culture and the values of the people of West Virginia and those that I've met in the 9th District. And I'll promise never forget to get you, I'll never forget the people of my district when I'm in Charleston. And I thank everyone for the opportunity to be here this evening.